Hi guys, sorry to inflict Nigel Farage upon you, but if you thought the Tory leadership campaign couldn't get any more insane, Boris Johnson supporters are turning the volume up to 11. Farage, as part of his GB News segment, had on a guy called Alex Story, a former Tory politician. Anyway, he says that Boris Johnson should have his name added to the list of people to replace Boris Johnson. This, as I said, would add an extra level of crazy to this leadership contest. Have a listen to what Alex had to say.
Ballot papers are going out imminently. You can't get him on the ballot, can you?
Well, I mean, it's always good to hope. I mean, what's been interesting about the entire process is that if we go back over the last 2 decades, we know that when Tony Blair resigned, everybody cheered. When David Cameron resigned, people shrugged their shoulders. When Theresa May resigned, there was an intense sigh of relief from most of the population. But when Boris was forced to resign, 14,000 letters were sent by members of the public to CCHQ asking them, what are you doing?
Members of the public or Conservative Party
Members of the public wrote, according to The Sun. But
Okay, according to The Sun. So let's say, for the sake of argument, The Sun is telling the truth. And 14,000 people sent letters to Tory Party HQ. 14,000. We're not talking about a massive number of people. You know, there are politicians with bigger majorities in their constituencies than 14,000. Okay.
But then I think what the interesting thing is the spark that was lit by Lord Peter Crudas, because by doing that, he enabled people to say, hang on, this thing was forced on us. We have a prime minister whose flaws were known. A lot of people in the Red Sea.
What, that he was a liar?
No, that he
No. Look, I never thought I'd actually say this, but kudos to Nigel Farage, because he's a liar. Yes, he's a liar. Look, when we think of politicians, many people will say, oh, well, you know, most politicians are liars. But when you think of Boris Johnson, the first characteristic is he's a liar.
Well, the way that people would have said,
Alex, the majority of the country think the Prime Minister is a liar.
Well, I think that they will also say that most politicians are liars, if we're honest.
Do you know what? I've never, in my experience, heard that word used as openly and as repeatedly as it is about Johnson.
Let's go back to some of the people who accuse him of lying. For instance, Alistair Campbell goes around calling
He
him...
would not be the role model for this. I would agree.
No, but what I'm saying is that this guy is sitting in a glass house lobbing concrete blocks around.
But Alistair Campbell, if you want to say Alistair Campbell lied about the Iraq War was almost 20 years ago. We're talking about Boris Johnson lying every time he's in the House of Commons. Every time he's out in public, he's lying. It's not like Boris Johnson lied once and then he's been punished for that.
No, I think the reason why this is so important, I think, is because the membership of this organization has completely been bypassed by a small group of people whose interest
members of Parliament who've been selected by your associations. They're representatives of your party.
All of them. He won a vote of no confidence just a few weeks before, and also he did relatively well at the local elections. We all know that the actual story in May was not that Boris Johnson was unpopular, but it was that Keir Starmer.
I think you're missing.
He's missing the point here. Is Boris Johnson is a weight on the party. He's pulling the party down. And politicians, senior members of government, were looking at this and saying, look, I don't want to lose my seat at the next general election. We need to get rid of Johnson and put in place somebody who will stop the rot. If Johnson had remained, at the next election, it would be a bloodbath for the Tories. So they're looking at this and saying, look, if we replace Johnson with somebody a bit more palatable, then we're not expecting to win, but we can at least hold on to more seats. And the idea that, this Bring Back Boris campaign, look, I don't think it's going to work for the simple fact that Boris Johnson's sycophants are not backing it. Nadine Dorries Michael Fabricant, Jacob Rees-Mogg, these people are not backing Boris Johnson staying in power. They're backing Liz Truss. Now, what could happen is that Boris Johnson will leave as Prime Minister, but he could come back in some form. He could be made some sort of diplomat. He could be made a minister, God forbid. He could come back in some form. I don't know. It's so unpredictable at the moment. I don't see Boris Johnson becoming a backbencher. I think he would leave politics. He would prefer to leave it and do something else. Or he may be offered a cabinet position or some sort of honorary position. I don't know what. But we're not going to see the end of Boris Johnson, I'm afraid. But he's not coming back as Prime Minister. I don't see that. Now, once again, we're in very crazy times, very uncharted territory. Is it impossible that Boris Johnson could hold on in some way? No, it's not impossible. But it's unlikely. And it's more likely that Liz Truss or Rishi Sunak take over, probably Liz Truss, and he'll be offered a position in her cabinet. He'll probably turn it down and he'll go and do something else. That's what I think will happen. But then it's very unpredictable. Let me know in the comment section, guys, what you think about all of this. As always, your comments are greatly appreciated. Thanks a lot.